I was Italian. I grew up in a medium city in Italy called Brescia, close to Garda Lake. 12 years in Essilor Luxottica, over 6 years in the region. It's important to size a bit, no, this optical world.
I agree.
So it's today it's around 145, 150 billion dollar worldwide. It's expected to grow on a single digit until reaching 175, 180 billion dollar in 2028. So many people and so many talented people wants to move now in Dubai. GCC today is playing a sort of gateway, a sort of bridge among Western and East country. Leonardo Del Vecchio, so our founder of Luxottica, has always been a pioneer. In '88, with Giorgio Armani, he moved the eyewear into a completely different dimension. He moved towards fashion.
I'm Carlo Pignataro, and this is a new episode of Lux Friends. Today, I'm going to sit with Andrea Fornari, General Manager GCC and Export of the optical and lifestyle giant Essilor Luxottica. For those not familiar with the name, Essilor Luxottica is the largest producer of eyewear and lenses in the world, with house brands like Ray-Ban, Persol, Oliver Peoples, and retail chains like LensCrafter and Sunglass Hut, and over 100 more brands. With a market value of over 90 billion euros and a turnover in excess of 25 billion euros, the company dominates the sector, undisputed. Today, with Andrea, I aim to understand how the optical sector is evolving, the technological transformations that will improve the lives of billions of people around the world, the increasing role that eyewear is playing in the lifestyle industry, and how a company of this size can remain fresh and innovative. I trust this is going to be an important and interesting conversation. And as always, I hope you'll enjoy listening to it while learning something new. Andrea, welcome to Lux Friends.
Thank you so much, Carlo. My pleasure.
Did I miss anything in the introduction?
It was perfect. I will just maybe add a few things about myself.
Yes, please.
Of course, Italian. I grew up in a medium city in Italy called Brescia, close to Garda Lake, for the one familiar with it.
Beautiful.
12 years in Essilor Luxottica, over 6 years in the region.
Over 6 years in the region.
Yes.
Wow. So let's get down to business immediately. This is what I would like to ask you. As head of GCC and export market, I said it before, in the most innovative and large company in your industry, how is the optical sector changing? And most importantly, how is it going to change the world?
So let's say that starting from your question, it's important to size a bit, no, this optical world.
I agree.
So it's today it's around 145, 150 billion dollar worldwide. It's expected to grow on a single digit until reaching 175, 180 billion dollar in 2028. It's a big number, and funny enough, because the growth it's completely different according to where you are in the world. So some country will grow faster, some country will grow faster in medical care, some other will grow more in eye care, so on and so forth. And this differentiation is based more on where are you located today. So modern economy, or let's say more mature country, today they are looking on the eyewear something more ad hoc, something different, because they already reached the point of I want to buy this frame for the brand. They're already there. What they need is solution to see better, to see more, be more, using our latest claim of Essilor Luxottica.
See more, be more, yeah.
On the other hand, you have emerging economy that want to draw a line, say we are here today and we need to show off. So what they are attracting them is the branding. So they want to have eyewear that highlight their status. So those two things will keep evolving at a different pace. So from one side, we expect that in the emerging economy, at the first, you will see much more conversion of the sales towards brand, and second, on the eye care, because maybe they have young population, maybe there's not a very high level of education in this matter. So step by step, they will reach. On the other side, in the mature economy, let's call it, of course, eyewear will keep growing, but at a different pace, while on the other side, the people will search for solution to keep themselves active, to keep young. And of course, eye care play a very important role to that. If you see better, you live better your life. So let's say those two things really can change and the way we approach our life. And that's why it's a very, let's say, dynamic world. So we definitely work in a very dynamic industry.
Very dynamic industry. And I particularly like how you framed it. You have eye care and eyewear, and both important parts of the business. You mentioned they grow differently. They go at different speeds in different countries, parts of the world, different economies.
Absolutely.
On a global scale, are they proceeding at the same pace, or is there a difference between eye care and eyewear?
I would say that in general they grow pretty much at the same pace, but as I said, it really depends on where you locate it, and of course, which side of the market you want to look at. If you look at high-end markets, is a different story than maybe more entry market, where of course the need of consumer are really different. But let's say at the global scale, they grow pretty much at the same pace because the demand is there. Nowadays, we talk about at 8 billion people living in the world.
Yes.
So the scale and the opportunities are huge.
So, speaking of eyewear, the one that I'm also more familiar with, conducting Lux and Friends, and Lux plays a big part in this part of the optical industry. What I know is that lifestyle has played a significant part in the eyewear industry, in the optical industry, for at least 30 years. But also, eyewear has played a significant part in the fashion and luxury industry, because I would say is the entry door for many consumers into the world of luxury. Since you work for the leader, and I want to remind our viewers and listeners that Luxottica, which at the time was not yet merged with Essilor, pioneered this when Leonardo Del Vecchio, correct me if I'm wrong, signed an agreement with Giorgio Armani, very good friends at the time, and I think they remain friends for the rest of their lives, with the first branded eyewear. Can you take us through this history and journey?
Absolutely. No, let's say that Leonardo Del Vecchio, so our founder of Luxottica, has always been a pioneer, has always been a visionary. And that's why, because he founded Luxottica in 1961, and at the time he was supplying eyewear component to other producers. Then he understood, and few years later, after 10 years, he presented to the Milo the first Luxottica collection, and from that day onwards, he started to imagine that the purpose of this, let's call it piece of plastic, piece of metal, was not only to help people to see more, but again, to be more. And thanks to the license agreement signed in 1988 with Giorgio Armani, he moved the eyewear into a completely different dimension. He moved towards fashion. And he understood that at the end, a person that wear frames, wear specs, wear them for many hours in the day. And having an item that's give it to you a sort of status that help you to, present yourself better, it's super important. And he understood that over 30 years ago. And now, if you look at the amount of brands and the amount of frame producers that are nowadays in the, let's say, in the environment, in our environment, means that he was right, but he was right over 30 years ago. So that's why we call him as a visionary, because he understood it much more before any other people.
I agree. It's impossible to continue a conversation about Essilor Luxottica without at least mentioning him. Did you meet him in person?
Yes. Let's say I had the chance to see him a couple of times. It was a very briefly, of course, meeting once, and that was the most, let's say, touching moment was we were at the time presented at that call Luxottica Day. So once we were inviting our B2B consumer in the different value. At that time we were in Como and launching the new collection. No? And he was there and we were in the working room with some customer and he popped in there. He looked at us, said, all good? And we said, yeah, Cavaliere, all good, all good. He smiled at us. He introduced himself to the customer that were like,
no
wow, they were like, and that was actually the first time. The second time we were in Milan. At that time, on the ground floor, they create a showroom where the product team was basically working to prepare the new collection and so on. And every Monday he was going there to check if everything was fine and so on. And this tells you a lot about who was Leonardo Del Vecchio. It was a visionary, but at the same time was a very humble and very kind person. And has been the feeling that I got once I met him for the first time. I was a 24 years old guy with customer, and he was there very nice, introducing himself, asking if everything was fine, and then he left.
Wow, that's amazing. You know, everyone I met in your company has told me this, how a great gentleman he was. And maybe you don't know, but I had a chance to meet him as well. Very briefly, during one of those Luxottica days that you mentioned, I was invited a few years ago for a series of talks on the launch of my first book, Said with Style. And I remember seeing him on top of the stairs. And he was all alone, surrounded by many people. He was all alone there. And I would ask somebody, what is he doing all alone checking his phone? They say, you wouldn't believe it. He's checking the business. And we're talking about an 80+ years billionaire who doesn't need to check the status of the business on the daily basis. But this was more than a business for him.
It was the life. It was his life.
And the amount of love that is pouring every day for this man is unbelievable in the company.
No. And we feel it.
And you feel it. So, speaking of Dubai and the GCC, where you are based, and I am based too, this part of the world has changed a lot. I don't know if you agree with me, Andrea. But
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Dubai now is the talk of the town everywhere. I receive 10 calls a day asking me about the city, opportunities in the city. Everybody wants to either come, spend their holidays here, or move in this part of the world. I remember that when I first started traveling here over 20 years ago, this market was considered some sort of a secondary market, isn't it? There is money there, but not much is going on. So whatever is available, they may buy it. And then it started gaining traction. Today, I would say that Dubai is still leading the way in terms of recognition, but KSA is becoming increasingly important. What's your perspective based on your experience and your exposure to the various facets of the optical industry as a general manager?
No, I mean, you touched very important points. So let's say that what we witness is that the GCC of 10, 15 years is completely different than the situation nowadays. Yeah. As you said, so many people and so many talented people wants to move now in Dubai.
Yeah.
Second point is, yes, absolutely. So GCC today is playing a sort of gateway, a sort of bridge among Western and East country. And at the same time, until 10 years ago, we were just talking about a bit of Dubai as a great place for expat and a good place for tourists. Now, many other countries are stepping into in the big picture and want to play an important role worldwide. In the vision of Saudi Arabia, for instance, now that we just mentioned, that by the way is the biggest country among the one in GCC.
Yes.
Over 39 million people living there. In their vision of 2030, they aim to become one of the top economy in the world. If I don't mistake, today they're already in the top 20 economy in the world. And all the adjustment, all the investment that they're doing today in their country is literally to reach that goal. They are investing into Saudization, so to elevate and upskill the Saudi people in order to take important position in the day-to-day life of their own country. They are investing in order to attract foreign person to spread the knowledge. So I would say that really, I mean, I left Dubai for work 3 years ago, and I came back last year, and I found it different. New areas, completely new area, a lot of more traffic, a lot of new nationality join it. Because again, we always have to bear in mind that one of the best recipe of Dubai is, regardless who you are, you're welcome to Dubai. So let's say that this really brought a lot of people, a lot of business, and a lot of interest around this side of the world.
Yes, I agree with you. I mean, the pace of transformation is incredible. So you mentioned Saudi Arabia, largest country, Vision 2030. So it's probably going to lead the growth of the region. Then we have Dubai, You portrayed it very well. But the UAE, United Arab Emirates, is not only Dubai. There is also Abu Dhabi. So if you don't mind, can we get a little bit more granular, speaking of this region that many people don't know much about? So tell me more about the UAE. What else do you see happening in Abu Dhabi, for example, the capital?
Absolutely. So let's say that from a business perspective, as to us, we need to adjust ourselves in the value proposition according to the different cities. Because consumer in Abu Dhabi, that is, I would say, more traditional city, less linked to foreigner, less linked to expat. Of course, they are expat, they are tourists, they have a lot of, let's say, area, starting from Yas Island, no? Where you have the F1, so on and so forth, that attract a lot of people, but then it's still a city that is linked to the government, is linked to oil and gas, and they like this. So let's say that this is their DNA, no? And automatically us as a company, we need to adjust according to the type of consumer that they have there. Talking about another Emirates, let's say Sharjah, for instance, it's completely different than the next door Dubai or Abu Dhabi. And also in that case, we need to adapt our value proposition according to the consumer that we have there. So Sharjah, it's, for instance, an Emirati that has the biggest part of the population are Indian. So of course, we need to adapt ourselves to their needs, to their taste, so on and so forth. So basically, there's not one recipe. You need to adapt yourself.
Yeah, you need to adapt yourself. How about Qatar? Qatar gained a lot of exposure during the World Cup. I have to say they managed it incredibly well, but now not much is heard about Qatar, and I trust people are curious. They want to know more. What do you see happening in that country?
So let's say that in Qatar, what we saw before it was that Qatar was, on top, of course, of UAE, mainly Dubai and Abu Dhabi, the most open among the GCC countries. You know, they were already attracting at the time a lot of expat. They invested a lot in, let's say, in the marina, in the skyline. So you might have a feeling that it's similar somehow to Dubai. They, at their World Cup, and as you said, create a lot of traffic all over, people in, people out, and so on. But nowadays, what we see is that it's still very quiet as a country. It's a more, I would say, traditional country. Yes, you do have a community of expat. You do have the Qatari people that are people that anyway, they are very wealthy. But more than that, you see a very, I would say, traditional country, quiet country, where as to us, when we approach them, we always need to think that our value proposition must be more high-end. Qatar people really like mall. So it's a very mall-oriented country, but quite high-end malls. So they keep developing new malls. Each of them is, of course, bigger, more luxurious, more, they provide you more, let's say, ad hoc services, could be like a VIP room or whatever. So let's say that this is a bit more the direction that we can see today in Qatar. Translated, business-oriented, less volume, more value. Okay. As if we want to summarize, and similar to it, it's Kuwait. Kuwait, let's say, at least from our perspective, even the step forward when we talk about being traditional.
Okay, because Kuwait is a very small country, oil-driven, and I don't know if many people know it, but they have the strongest currency in the world.
Correct. And as I was saying, Kuwait is literally it's a small country, it's very traditional, and people there are very linked to the luxury jewelry world. So if we think about our industry, we definitely need to work closely to our high-end portfolio brands with them. And even more in Kuwait, value is much more important than volume. So this is somehow the characteristic of this country. It's also true that Kuwait is somehow the most exposed country among the GCC one when we talk about, let's say, international, let's say, war and so on. Today, for instance, from a business perspective, we witnessed a slowdown since last year after the beginning of the Israeli and Palestinian war. Yes. So automatically, I saw ourselves in the way we communicate and so on. We need to adapt and we need to understand their culture because it's very important. You have to be sensitive to it.
Where do you enjoy traveling more amongst those countries?
That's a very good question. I would say nowadays, joking on the side, definitely Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
I mean, Riyadh today, if you exclude the traffic, it's quite
Crazy.
hectic.
Yes.
But in the way they develop the city is outstanding, and there's more to come. So if I would say Jeddah, which is still more traditional, you have the seaside, which is very nice. On the other side, you have Riyadh. Riyadh is a metropolis that aims to host in the near future 20 million people. So we talk about like a huge metropolis, and they are literally rebuilding entire areas. So in terms of infrastructure and so on, it's keep ongoing the process, and it's fascinating. I mean, for us, it's really fascinating to see how quick things can change in this side of the world.
Absolutely, I agree with you, and I experience exactly the same. To me, what's even more impressive, if you will, is the speed of change of the social fabric. Do you remember only a few years ago, there was no music in restaurants, single men and families separated, women were segregated, now they drive, party, make decisions. I mean, it's unprecedented.
I mean, it's one of the most connected countries in the world if we think about social media and so on.
Social media.
It is really impressive. And a lot of the new generation, because again, it's a very, very young country, as we said before, they travel a lot. So they learn, they open up their mind in, I would say, different countries. Then they come back and they try to implement what they learn linked to their tradition. So I would say it's a very interesting country, and for us, it's also very interesting to witness the change.
Now, let's zoom out of the local side of the business and let's get global. I would say that the keyword of our times is technology and technological advancement. Now I'm thinking of technologies like artificial intelligence. I've heard specialists say that artificial intelligence is going to be even more pervasive than electricity, and I actually believe it. But there are many more. I mean, virtual and augmented reality, robotics, flying taxis, automation, the list is long. But what I'm trying to say, Andrea, is technology is changing the world and maybe is also changing us as a species. What's going on from a technological point of view in the optical industry, and how is this going to change, once again, the life of all of us?
Let's say that at Essilor Luxottica, the innovation, the technology, we like to say it's at the center, at the heart of the organization.
Yeah.
We always say that our backbone is our supply chain, and our, let's say, innovation, our technology is at the heart of the company. Why? Because in order to be a market leader, you need to be not one, but 2 steps ahead. And if you don't innovate, how can you do that?
Yeah.
And as we said, today, yes, we'll keep evolving into eyewear, but then the majority of the innovation will come from eye care and new sector. We are exploring new horizon. And I will tell you about that briefly. So if we look at in the eye care, I think it's important to mention 2 examples of technologies that we launched that really change our perspective around lenses. One is Stellest, which is a myopia control lens developed for kids. Okay. So basically, the objective is to slow down the progression of the myopia into kids, wow, which is a big revolution. On the other side, thinking about a bit more older people, and when we talk about progressive lenses, is the launch of Varilux XR, which is the first Varilux lens developed leveraging on artificial intelligence, as you mentioned. So the plus is that when you start wearing it for the first time, you do not suffer of adaptation. When you wear for the first time a progressive lenses, you might have issue. Of course, yes. It's completely different. You need to adapt yourself and so on. Thanks to the artificial intelligence, we've been able to develop a lens that basically in one go, in 1 second, it's adapting to your lifestyle, wow, which honestly is really a revolution. Talking about medtech, because I know you are very passionate about this side of the business, is first of all, I would say the new disruption of Essilor Luxottica. Because yes, Essilor was the leader in the eye care, on lenses, on instruments, Luxottica was the leader in the eyewear, on the branding, on the retail, but together they gave birth to a third part that is linked to the med tech. So we are exploring new businesses that has the final objective of improving the life of the consumer.
Yeah.
For example, Nuance. Nuance is a new technology that we launched last year, and it will play in the hearing solution arena. So today, worldwide, 1.2 billion people suffer of mild to moderate hearing loss.
Okay.
And this technology embedded into a frame will allow you to enjoy your life without putting an advertise saying, I'm sick, I'm wearing a device that is helping me, because everything will be embedded in the temple of a frame.
Wow. That's different rather than the
Absolutely.
in-ear
Absolutely.
device.
And this honestly is literally a revolution. That's why we keep saying disruption, because it's something that nobody's seen before, but will completely change their life. In one device, you see better and you hear better. Linked to this, we cannot not mention Ray-Ban Meta. So the smart glasses.
I was about to ask.
Smart glasses is a revolution, is a device that in a way changed completely the logic of the eyewear. And again, I think that these, let's say, just these few examples give it a bit of flavor of where the company wants to go, wants to explore new horizon, want to reach completely different consumer. And this is, I think, the big plus of working for a company that has at the base such a huge heritage from pioneers company.
Do you think these smart glasses will replace the smartphone?
That's a very, very good question. Honestly, unfortunately, I'm maybe not that smart to predict the future, but definitely will change a bit our habits. I mean, I try myself, and to very, let's say, honestly, I can say when you start getting into it, now that for you it's normal to listen to music, pick up the chords, and so on and so forth, take picture with this device, it's great. Because you basically your hands are free. I'm thinking about, I love doing outdoor sport, and when you hike or when you have a stroll or you visit a city, wait a second, let me take the phone, let me take a picture. No, everything is in here. I mean, this is a revolution.
Yeah.
So for me, absolutely. I mean, it's gonna be there. Then, is it going to completely change the, let's say, the dynamic of a tech world? I don't know, but absolutely, it will be a tool. It will be a technological gadget that will be there in the future.
When can I buy one here?
We are working on it, so stay tuned, and you're gonna be the first one to know.
Okay,
Okay.
please inform me.
Absolutely.
So, Andrea, you mentioned a few times the word disruption. And I also said innovation. And they are at the core of your company. They've always been. However, I'd like to challenge you, no, not really challenge you, but invite you to explain more how a company of the size, a giant of the size of Essilor Luxottica, can still be a disruptive player. Why am I asking you this? Because you expected disruptive innovation from startups. They got nothing to lose and all to gain to create new spaces. But big companies need to maintain the status quo in a way because they are big. And by the way, how many people work in your company?
Almost 200,000 worldwide.
Almost 200,000 worldwide. So
It's a quite big company, I would say.
How can such a
giant,
amount,
we can say,
yes, be still fresh and innovative and disruptive?
But I would say that this is really linked to the DNA of the company, and also our CEO, Francesco Milleri, interpreted very well this DNA, in the sense that also this idea of always changing a bit the status quo is there in now. Why a company like this need to develop hearing solution? Why a company like this needs to develop smart glasses? Why blah, 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 blah? It's because we want to go in the future. Seems like easy way to say, no, I want to be in the future. But actually, as on the way we are structured, we have 44 research and development facilities worldwide.
Wow.
Why? Because we always believe that you need really to reinvent something in anything we do. So from exploring new categories to improve the quality of our frames and the quality and the technology behind our lenses and instruments. So that's why, and I believe that this startup mentality is needed, because otherwise you stop, you keep saying, I am the best, I'm the stronger, but then others will arrive. And guys, really, our industries keep evolving. You have new players, new joiner, and you must keep moving faster. Plus, as we said at the beginning, it's a type of industries that mainly on the medical or in the technological side is not anymore 10, 15 years ago that every 5, 6 years you have something. Now, every month, something is new. And with artificial intelligence, this process will speed up even more. So, or you adapt yourself today, or you're out of the business. So I think it's a mix between a need of an organization, but also to the will of the organization. The will of the organization is to lead the market, but elevate the market. So
that's interesting. Lead the market and elevate the market. I like that. Can you explain more? What do you mean as elevate the market?
Absolutely. I'll make you a very, let's say, tangible example is today people are in need of eye care, right? But until they don't know, maybe for them it's not a problem. So education will open you the gate, the door on, hey, you do have a problem, and then automatically people will start using it. And in this way, you elevate the market, because from the starting point that nobody was wearing eye care, now people are asking for progressive lenses, for single vision lenses, for transition lenses, so on and so forth. Same as on the eyewear. I do sport, I have a solution. I like lifestyle brands, I have a solution. I like luxurious brand, I have a solution. So you change the mentality of the people, let them understand that actually there is a need. And in order for you to enjoy more your life, you need to have tools that are will allowing you to live better your life. So elevating means creating more awareness that your status today is not good as your status tomorrow if you do A, B, C, D.
Listen, as a general manager, at a relatively young age, in such a dynamic industry, what's the hard part of your job? What are the 3 main challenges that you face as an individual every day at work?
I would say definitely one of the key challenge, mainly I would say in Dubai, because again, we always have to remember that here we are exposed to so many different culture, so many different people with different backgrounds, is the communication. Having a good communication is literally, it's a game changer. I like the word game changer because it's true. If you're able to arrive with your message to different stakeholders, means they will do their job better.
Indeed.
So definitely communication. Second is to adapt to the local needs. So gaining trust of the people. Here is still a market, is still a part of the world where the human relationship are super important. And if you're not able to get into the inner circle of these people, you're out. Because you might have great products, yes, of course, but then you need to be in there, in this case, talking about wholesaler, in their stores to provide your value proposition to the final consumer. And if you don't gain the trust, and the trust comes from the respect and to deliver. If you don't respect them, meaning you listen to them, you create a good communication flow with them, it's not going to work. On the other side, you need to deliver, because at the end of the day, you need to be concrete. They are concrete person. They like to talk about real fact. So I would say that these somehow are the challenges that we have in this part of the world. Plus, last, that is linked to what we said, is super dynamic world. Really, I mean, thinking about the Dubai, but let's think about just the landscape of our business. In one mall, you have 10, 13, 14, 15, whatever stores, in our case, optical store, competing each other. So how you support your customer? How you give to them products that is suitable for their DNA, so on and so forth. So Those, I believe, are the challenges that we have here in Dubai and automatically in the Middle East and North Africa, so this part of the world, that, of course, are different than a person that maybe lead a more mature economy that has completely different type of complexity. But this one is very linked to this part of the world.
So doing what you do is not a walk in the park, as they say. But I'd like to comment on what you mentioned about the human relationships in this part of the world. I so much agree with you. I mean, here, a handshake still has value.
Don't talk about that, really. Gave me a lot of problem, a lot of headache.
Really? Why?
Because it happened a few times, actually, that instead of signing the classic agreement, no, that's among the two parties, they want to have a handshake. And they were getting upset. If you were saying, legal, those type of thing. What do you mean? It's not important for you handshake. It's much more important.
Indeed.
And joking on this side, but it is very important.
Yeah. And I love that in a way, because this human side was not lost here. Still very present.
It is.
And very enjoyable. So, Andrea, as we head towards the end of our conversation, that I find very interesting, by the way, you started talking about your personal challenges, but I aim every time at somehow getting to know the person behind the professional. So, you mentioned you've been with Essilor Luxottica for 12 years. You worked here, but you also moved for a period of time.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about your journey, professional, and also about yourself? What do you love? What motivates you? And what's next for you?
I will try to summarize it in one sentence that I was literally a bit, sometimes I think, what I really like to do, And one of the leitmotiv is always, I picture myself as a person that is thirst for knowledge. Okay. Translated means that I'm a person that is very active, proactive person, and also my journey inside the company, they gave me the chance to move from one area to another one. As you said, I lived in Milan, I lived in Dubai, then I moved to Cape Town, so in South Africa, I moved back to Dubai.
Interesting.
And every time I was exposed to new challenges, to new adventure. And this new adventure is the one that really gave me like the motivation, the energy to do always one step ahead. So, and I believe this is, let's say, part of my nature, is what has to give me, the level of positiveness to sometimes, smile also to challenging or tough moment, because at the end you're doing something that you like. And when you do something that you like, can be tough, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
So let's say this is, in a nutshell, for instance, I love playing tennis, and usually we say that or you're mentally sick, or you're going to be mentally sick playing tennis, because your biggest enemy is yourself when you play tennis. Yeah, the opponent can be good, of course, but on the other side, most of the time, it's an internal fight among you and yourself.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's, I would say, and what I, hope for myself in the future is to have this type of energy, to be open to the change. I think being open to the change, not only from a personal, but as a professional point of view, it's really important, because it's always give it you the chance to see the things from a different angle, to see the glass half full, and to interpret your life in a more positive way.
I agree. So since you must be hiring and managing many people in your daily activity, for our viewers and listeners who have an interest for the optical industry and would like to enter this world, what would you recommend them to either be or do or become or explore? What does it take to enter the optical industry and have a successful career?
I would say that the most important thing is being dynamic. It's an industry that is dynamic. It's an industry that moves from, as we said, fashion, medical devices, new technology. You need to deal with customer, you need to deal with corporate. So you are exposed to many stakeholders. And in order to, at the end, fulfill your task, your job, you need to deliver. In order to deliver, you need to understand quite quickly, interpret the request from corporate, and cascade them to the team. So again, communication. So I think that those really being active, proactive, it's super important in this type of industry.
So can we say this is not an industry for couch potatoes?
I would say absolutely not.
Andrea, thank you very much for being with me on Lux and Friends.
Big pleasure. Thank you so much, Carlo. It's been really a pleasure.